hear me? Let's see, can allow to talk. Doesn't matter. All right, don't throw away a 3D model. Okay, I come up with this topic because a lot of us, we are doing three-dimensional, but at the point where you start creating 3D, we just throw them away and not doing it too much with it. So this is pretty much our common workflow. So what we do is that we create plans, elevation, section, and basically in 3D model, what we do is that we take the plans, elevation, section, and then just make them into a 3D model. Now, what tends to happen is that clients typically have high expectation and want more for us. Okay, a lot of time what we have is that we have clients that expect, oh yeah, everything has to be good, but unfortunately the budget kind of limit us to what we can do. So a lot of time what I always find with the client is that they want the 3D model, they want 3D right now so that it can go to marketing and all that stuff. But a lot of that stuff takes a lot of time. They also want us to basically make changes and expect us to get like fast results. And then they always put changes until the deadline. So a lot of time, if you have to do a lot of this, it's kind of like you're scrambling to get all this information into what you want. Now, the common issues we always have with this is that when we're creating plan, section, elevations, 3D usually gets left behind. Sometimes when the client asks, oh, I want you to give me a 3D model so I could send it to marketing. So you kind of have to scramble together and keep updating. So it's kind of like it's a chore to do it. Now, a lot of time what I find is that there's too many coordination happening in 2D workflow. So what happens is that each user is assigned to work. Let's say one person is working on plan, the other person is working on a section, and everybody just work in each role. And the problem is that if, let's say, the plan is not updated, then the next person can't complete the task. We all have that issue. And the other thing is that not everyone has all the level skills. The problem is that when we work with multiple projects, we work with people with less, 3D skills. Some of them have good detailing. Some of them are good at doing 3D. But everybody, we just have to work with whatever we have. Now, what commonly happens is that in IBI is that we create plans, and that plans we have to kind of generate section, elevation, 3D, and then they're all created kind of like manually. So what I try to find is that look at the new approaches. You can still do 2D plans, okay, no problem. If you're comfortable with Revit, then you can skip this. But majority of the time, what I'm seeing is that this is not going to happen. Reality is that people still use AutoCAD, and there's some people using 3D. But I would just say use the 3D and generate the elevation and section. Okay, simple as that. So basically, what you're doing is that you're cutting off, trying to like do this manually, and use the 3D to drive your section and elevation. Now, for most of the 3D type, most of the 3D software generate either 3D Solid or Mesh. Okay, if you are creating, there's a difference. There are differences between the two. If you know the 3D Mesh, they're basically a surface object, whereas if it's a 3D Solid, it's an object base which has a mass. You can create very complicated surface like NURBS, right? Whereas 3D Solid is kind of like primitive and relying on solid or void. 3D Mesh, as you can see, is that it has very little intelligence. All you have is a bunch of points, and then you just generate that. It also has hollow on the inside, so when you cut a box, it just basically has nothing inside. Whereas if you have cutting through 3D Solid, it's a solid object. Now, one thing I always comment is that the 3D Mesh is always made for the architects, whereas if it's solid, it's always made for the mechanical engineer. They love that. Okay, if you're doing machinery in parts, they prefer to use 3D Solid, whereas for us architects, we like Mesh because it's very easy, very flexible, and we can just do whatever we want with that. Now here is just basically like two typology of the Solid and the Mesh. Okay, you've probably seen it. If you're into 3D, you sort of know that this is what it is. Now, when it comes to software, what software can create 3D Mesh and 3D Solid? as you can see, majority, like 3D Max, Cinema 4D, or etc., they all basically aim towards the mesh. When you look at AutoCAD and MicroStation, they're actually catered to both. And you look at Revit, ArchiCAD, I think Vectorworks is also creating Solid. Now, Vectorworks, ArchiCAD, and Revit are actually, when they actually built the software, it's based on engineering software. And then when they create it, they basically borrow the engineering and put it into the architectural world. So if you look at flexibility, AutoCAD and MicroStation basically have both of them. So you can actually create one of the objects, or you can create the mesh. So it has the flexibility of both. Since we're predominantly using AutoCAD and Revit in the office, if later on if there is other software like Vectorworks, etc., we'll create a role. But for now, I think we're using mostly AutoCAD and Revit. So what happens is that I'm just basically breaking down based on what they can do and what they cannot do. So can take 3D model and generate into 2D lines. So that's basically what a lot of people want to do, right? You have a 3D model, and you want to generate that as a 2D line. With Revit, you can do it pretty good, okay? So all you have to do is just get into the 3D, okay, put it into elevations, and then when you export them out, it's just going to be a bunch of lines, okay? Whereas if it's AutoCAD, you can only do it through 3D Solid, okay? But if you're using vertical products like AutoCAD architecture, they could actually generate 2D information from 3D Mesh. But for now, I'm just talking about only AutoCAD. Can export as Mesh and Solid. AutoCAD you can. Revit you can do the same. Able to cut section both 3D Mesh and Solid. Revit can do it. AutoCAD can only do it if it's a 3D Solid. Okay, it doesn't do the Mesh. Able to manipulate 3D objects after import. AutoCAD is very good, whereas Revit is not really with the mesh, only the solid you can manipulate it. Can easily fix blemishes and fake display. What it means is that in 3D model, you know that things are sometimes you will see the objects are like everywhere, right? With Revit, you can actually manipulate it and make it look like you can hide that stuff. Whereas AutoCAD, it's what you see is what you get, but it's very, very difficult to kind of hide stuff. You kind of have to go in and then create layers and then put that object in that layer, and then that's how you turn them off. For fading backgrounds, let's say for example you have a 3D solid or 3D model and you want to get that depth of field. In Revit, you can actually do it. I'll show you a simple tool, very, very easy. Whereas if it's in AutoCAD, you can still do it, but it's very tricky because you have to use through the viewport. You cannot rely on the model space. And finally, 3D snap. So sometimes if you want to query a point, let's say what's the elevation of this 3D point, you can do it with AutoCAD, whereas Revit, it's very, very difficult. I'll show you later on what I mean by snapping. All right, let's begin demo. So which one do you want to go first, AutoCAD or Revit? Doesn't matter? So, okay, I'll do the AutoCAD since majority are using the AutoCAD. Okay. So I'm going to start with the, this is a simple thing. Okay. Now, when you first start AutoCAD, I'm just going to open up a sample file. AutoCAD. Okay. There's two types. Oh, can't see the screen. Show my screen. Okay, can you see it now? Can you see it now? Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so what happens is that I export a Revit model into two types. One is the mesh and one is the 3D solid. Now, for the mesh, when you open up the mesh in 3D solid, let's say I'm going to open it up, you notice that they're virtually identical. The only difference they have is that the file size gets bigger, okay? If you have 3D solid, it's going to be always going to be twice as big as the mesh. The mesh is just 2D polygons, has no weight, nothing. Okay? So as you can see, both of them, they look identical. I'm just going to get rid of this object. Okay? Now, what you want to do is that if you're planning to use AutoCAD to kind of like generate your 2D information, what you want to do is that you kind of have to understand that AutoCAD will not do everything, okay? So for 3D Solid, you can generate information, whereas 2D Mesh, you cannot generate information, but you can actually use it to generate like elevation. Section is kind of like a little bit hokey, but you can still do it. I'll show you how to generate a section from this. Okay, so let's say you have this. I'm going to go hide. Okay, it looks like this. So the first thing you want to do is that you want to create an elevation. How would you do that? So the first thing you want to do is that I'm going to go into some template. I'm just going to create just a simple presentation. Okay, I'm just going to open. I'm just going to use RHD. Blank RHD is fine. Okay, so now what you want to do is that when you create your view, okay, that's what it looks like from first. What you want to do is that, maybe I should turn this black to border to black so you guys can see it. Because white sometimes it's a bit harsh. So what you want to do here is that you want to go to VP, okay? If you don't know what VP does, is that it basically orients your view in certain conditions. So this one basically tells you where is it looking at from the XY plane, and this one is looking from side. So let's say if you want to do an elevation, I typically do 270, 0, 90, or 180, and then you put your eye level to 0. If it's too complicated, there is this wheel that you can use. Just click on that. Okay, what it does is that it basically generates that elevation. So that's probably the simple. I'm used to the old method. Okay, you can use the VP. This is the old days. This is what we use. But if the new days, just use one of these. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, this one I want to. Come on. Yeah, sometimes you see that the wheel is not there. That's the problem. So I'm just going to rotate it to 180 degrees. Okay. And I'm just going to put it there. This one, I'll just say, okay, there is another one left, right? This is, if you use this, it's also the same thing. So, okay, back. Okay, now I want to put a scale to this, so I'm going to add a drawing scale. Let's say inches. Let's do a 1/4 inch. Okay. Now what I'm going to do with this is that varies, make it a 1/4 inch. There we go. Now let's say, for example, if you want to print, I'm just going to go preview. You notice that it looks like a wireframe. Okay. How would you hide this object? There is a command inside the AutoCAD. If you go MV, it's a hidden command, and nobody knows about this until you put HI for high, okay? And then you say remove for plotting, say on. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to select all this object. And then what it does is that it's going to hide the object as you plot. So as you go to the plot, and you go preview, you notice that it starts to generate this in hidden mode. Okay? Any questions so far with this? That's how I would use, like, if you have a 3D model, you want to like do a generate elevations. This is how you do it. Now, what about annotations? How would you do annotation? Now, the tricky part about having a 3D is that all your annotation has to be done in paper space. Yeah, that's the only difference. So if you want to do tagging and all that stuff, right, I do recommend using put it in paper space. The reason why is that if you don't do it, it's very difficult. You have to orient yourself with different view, and it becomes very, very challenging. Okay, so the first thing I would do is that if you have to do it, just do the paper space. Just like, let's say, for example, this is I'm just gonna use one of the tool palette. Okay. And just go to architecture documentation and just say, okay, I want my multi-leader or keynoting. Okay, just go in there and say, okay, what kind of material is this? And say, I want this, and say this is number 1, etc. Blah blah blah. You kind of get the point, right? So this is how you would do your annotation. Now, what about if you want to do sections with this? Well, it's very limited. You cannot use mesh for a section. But I'll show you how to do it pretty easily. Okay, one of the things you could do is that first you make it a block. Okay, I'll just say W block, just make it, yeah, just a block. And so I'm just going to call it 3D. Select an object. I'm just going to say all. Oops. I'm going to select all this. Pick point. I'm just going to convert into a block. Okay. The next thing you want to do is that you want to put it in a layer. Okay. Let's create one. I'm just going to call this is 3D elevation. And then the next one is going to be 3D section. Now, the reason why I want to do that is because you want to be turn on and off kind of a thing. So this one is going to be 3D elevation. I'm going to make a copy of this. Let's say I'm going to put it there. And then this one, I want to do it in 3D section. Now, on plan, if you want to cut a section through, let's say, this building, what you have to do is just use your X-clipping. Everybody knows what X-clip? Okay, just click on this. And all you have to do, just say, okay, I want a new. And I'm just going to say rectangle. And this is where I want to cut it. Okay. When you go VP, you see that it kind of cuts into your 3D model. Now, the next thing you want to do is that, let's say, for the blank title block, this is where you're going to say, okay, for this, I wanted to shut off the 3D section. Same as this, just shut off the 3D section. So this is how you control the visibility viewport. Okay, and then I'm going to create another page, okay, from a template, and then I'm just going to say presentation and just say blank arch D. Okay, now this one, what I want to do is that I want to create a view again, except that this one I want to turn off the 3D elevation. Okay, so here I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to click on, oops, wrong side, undo. Yeah, it's pretty tough when you see it. Let's say I want to go here. That looks like the left. I'm going to go left. And I'm going to set this to 1/4 inch. Okay. And then again, just go MB, HI, and then just say on, and select this, and hide it. And when you go plot, and when you go preview, notice that it actually cuts, okay, with the high hidden line removed. So do you think this is going to be useful for you guys if you're doing a 3D model and then you cut a section? Yeah. So this is what I would do, right? I mean, you don't need like a special 3D kind of a thing to do it. You just do this. Okay. This is for the mesh.
You want to have dimension that the paper space?
Yeah, just for, I think paper space, it was the benefit of using doing the paper space, here, I'm just going to go in architectural, go to standard. You can actually dimension it. So for example, I'm just going to dimension my floor thickness. Let's see, go nearest. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't pick up. Yeah, I'll probably have to do the, let's go to the elevation. Let's see if it does this. But it snaps. Oh yeah. Oh, snap Z. 0. That's what you want. Okay. By default, it's going to be 1. I made it 1 because people have 3D model and they snap too much. Okay. Right now, what I'm going to do is that by doing that, let's see my F3. No, it doesn't do it. Anyways, it should work.
Shouldn't be 3D.
Oh, there we go. Okay, let's say for example you want this. So all I have to do is to say from here, oh I see, make sure this is turned on, this bugger. Now what you can do is I click on this. Oh, I see, dimension style, restore. Oh, I see. My dimension is kind of wonky, so I'm going to set that to current, okay. And I'm just going to say dim linear. Sorry for the hiccups, okay. And then you can just say, okay, right now it's not going to set to the proper scale. How you resolve this, what you have to do is go to new. I'm just going to say this one's going to be dim paper space, and then this is going to be 48, because I put it at the 1/4 inch. And what you have to do here is that for the fit, you want to set this to overall 48, okay? Let's see. No, actually, make it annotative. Sorry, make it annotative. This is the only thing you have to scale factor, 48. Say OK. And what you have to do is set this and change it to paper space. And what happens is that you see that automatically will change that to that. So that's kind of like a few steps you kind of have to do if you're using a 3D model, and just say set the paper space. If you know that's 48, then just change it to 48. Okay, let's say you get a clubhouse similar to this, but it's actually a 3D solid. What would you do? Okay, so it's the same application. All you have to do is just create a view here. I'm just going to go here, view. Okay, if you want to generate, let's say, a 2D elevation, let's say based on that, what you have to do is type in the command called solid profile. Okay, that's SOLPROF. And what you have to do is just select all this object. And then say, do you want to separate the layer, the hidden lines? Let's say yes. And let's say solid prop object, project to the line, yes. And do you want to tangent? Yes. Just say yes, yes, yes. Now, what's going to happen is that it's going to create a 2D. You can see, I'm going to turn off the layer. Okay. It's going to create one called the, where's the 2D layer? Where is it? This is the one, PH, that's the hidden, and then the PV, okay? And I'm just going to turn this off, and then just turn on the PH, and then the PV. And then what you're going to do is that I'm going to set the LT scale to, let's say, 48, okay? So what's going to happen is that it's going to generate the 2D information. What you can say is that all the hidden lines, just get rid of it. Or you can just say, make it into a, here, I forgot to do, just the layer, and just say dashed, and make it like a red, so you can actually see it. Oh, do I delete it? Oh, I think I deleted. Sorry. Undo again. Undo, undo. Okay, there you go. So what you can do here is that there is a hidden lines, and then sometimes there's 2D, make it dashed. Yeah, so say OK. Okay, there we go. So if you want that hidden line at the background, it's a good way. All right. So what you can do from here, so you can explode it and just do whatever you want. Once you explode it, it's just going to become a 2D line. Okay. Any questions so far? So basically, do the same thing to 4 corners, solid prof, blah blah blah. Now, if you want to rotate this down to, let's say, a 2D plane, okay, there's a command called rotate 3D. Or I think the easiest way is that rather than showing rotate 3D, I'm just going to just draw a line x, y, and z coordinates. And that's, let's say this is my plane. All you have to do is just go AL, L, select this object. Okay, I want this corner to be here. Oops. Select that object. This corner to go there. This corner to go there. And finally, this corner to go there. And what happens is that it's going to basically put it into a plan mode, and this is where you're going to be doing your manipulation. Okay? Any questions so far with this? Yeah, pretty good, right? But the only problem I don't like about it is that you kind of have to go in there and then kind of modify, and then they only put it into 2 layers. So if you want to make your thing really dark and bold and all that stuff, then you have to create layers, and then, you know, but at least it's something. Okay. What about section? How would you do section with this? It's the same method. Okay. I'll show you how I do section pretty quick. So the command is actually called section. Okay. Oh, actually, before I do anything, let me go into the drafting. In 2013, they added a new section. Have you guys tried that or no? You never tried that? Okay. Let's see, where is it? Section. Where is my freaking section? Anyways. Section, select the object. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just use the old, this is the old method, section. Select the object. Now, it asks you to pick 3 points. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go, this is my X, okay? And then my Y direction, the Z direction is, I'm going to go at 0, 0, 10. What it does is that it's just basically going to cut a line in there, okay? So I'm going to make this thing, and then when you go to VP, you see that it generates that section for you. Okay, this is just a section line. There is a new one. I can't seem to find it. If I do, I'll show you another method that they actually use. It's called this. It's a new section tool. If I can't find it, I'll just move on to the next task. Because it's also pretty cool because it's also parametric. Because when you add a section line, it will generate that information, and then as you move that section, it will regenerate that object again. But it has to be 3D solid, okay? So if you have people that's working on Revit, and then the person wants to do, like, let's say, a detail in AutoCAD, this is a good opportunity so they can actually study a bunch of sections, okay? If I can find it. It's not, I don't remember here. Maybe I should go to help because it's called section. It's a new one in AutoCAD. Section command. Okay, this is not the one. I think there is a, you kind of have to add an object to it. But anyways, I'll probably skip over that and then show it to you in the future because that is pretty good. Like if you want to do a Revit kind of like collaboration kind of a thing, this is a good tool. All right, any questions so far with this? AutoCAD? Okay, let's jump into Revit. Okay, now for Revit, you can do 2 ways. You can use mesh or you can use solid, doesn't matter. It will still generate elevation and generate section. Now, what you're going to do is that if you are planning to want to cut a section, what I typically recommend user doing, I'm just going to choose one of the AIA. If you're planning to use, let's say you want to cut a section, I would recommend you to create a family. I'll show you the difference. First, I'm going to go insert cat link. Okay, this cat link is information. Mention learn training. And then sample, I'm going to go Revit. Let's go into this. I would say put it there. Current view, I typically say check it off. If it's a 3D model, check it off. Okay, because you want to use those as 3D model. I'd say visible. You can make it black and white, or you can actually make it preserved. But I'd say black and white just makes it look good. Okay. So it's going to take a while. This one is just a 3D solid of a house.
But you're using AutoCAD.
AutoCAD, yeah, but it could be any software, right? You could use Sketchup. It's the same methodology. So as long as the DWG, or I think Revit has a way to kind of add in the Sketchup capability, so you can do that.
Because when you link, for example, some model method from Sketchup. You can see, but you cannot cut.
Yes, that's the thing. Okay, if you're linking it in, the one crucial thing is that you cannot cut a section. You can actually use it for elevation. Okay, if you are doing a 3D model and you haven't really done a lot of section yet, I mean, the first step you want to just give the client very, very quick, right? They don't care about the section. CAD linking is good for the first try. But once you get into where you have to cut a section, then I would try another method, which is the family method. You can import the family in once this is done. I don't know why it's taking so long. It shouldn't take that long. But if it takes that long, then it's something else. Okay, anyways, what I would do is that, okay, I'm going to show you the family method, and then the other one just the CAD linking. The 2014, I'm just going to show the CAD linking problem, and then I'm going to show you what we can do inside the family method. So the same thing, I'm just going to create a family, okay? It's very important you choose a particular template, so you have to use the generic model, okay? If you're going to cut anything, always use generic model, okay? If you choose other one, it won't cut it because it's an object. So here I'm just going to go insert, just go input CAD, and I'm just going to use the same CAD Lunch and Learn. And I'm just going to say, do this, sample, Revit, infill house 3D, origin to origin, preserve, I would say black and white, do not correct, never correct, and just say orient to view. Okay? Now, the other thing I would do, yeah, that's okay. The other thing I would do is draw a circle, let's say model line, and create an invisible. The reason why is that this is going to be where you're going to be telling Revit where the position of your object going to be. So this is kind of like, it's a way to tell Revit that this is my insertion point. I'm going to make it a foot, okay, right there. And once you've done that, all you have to do is just load into the project. Okay, let's say I'm going to put it there. Now, what happens is that you see that it looks kind of different. Okay, now what you can do is that you can actually cut a section now. Okay, this works if you're using Polymesh or Solid. There you go. That's what it looks like. Okay, and then if you want to go to north elevation, that's what it looks like. South elevation, and etc. Now, one thing nice about Revit is that you can actually fake stuff. You can actually put in stuff just to generate that. Let's say, for example, I want to fade the background. Let's say, for example, you want to fade stuff, right? So what I typically do is that you go to Annotate. I will use the fill region, okay? Let's say, for example, I want to fade this fence. All you have to do is just highlight the area you want to fade. Use the invisible line, all right, so you don't see it. And what you have to do is just go right-click, override the graphics, and say, I want this surface transparency to be, let's say, 60%. Or you can even go less, let's say 24%. What it does is that it allows you to fade that object in the background. So if you have a 3D model, you want to say you have like complex 3D model, you want something to be faded, then this is a good way. Okay? Now, if you want to do lines, again, you can just use the detail lines. Let's say I'm going to put a wide line. And all you have to do, just go detail line. White line, and all you have to do is just pick the line, okay? The person doesn't have to know 3D modeling. All you have to do is just embellish this to make it look good, okay? Yeah, that's all you have to do, and it's just basically 2D, 3D, and then if you want to add symbols to it, you can also use, here, I'll just create a text. I know that in previous, I show a symbol. You can actually use a text. Let's say duplicate. I'm just going to call this symbol. Let's say this is going to be my 1 meter. Okay. So it looks like a big text, but, oh, not a meter. Let's say 600 millimeter. Make sure that it's not opaque. It's transparent. You can see through. And the other thing you want to do is that if you have a font that basically has a symbol, I'm going to use called the wingding. Okay, wingding. You can use any other one. And then if you go to character map, okay, what's in the wingding? So if there is, okay, let's say I'm going to use that, it's my tree background. So just copy it. And for the font, oops, there we go. It looks like a tree. Just change the color from this to, let's say, green. All right, I think this is a bit too big, so I'll just make it 100 millimeter. There we go. So you can actually put it. Let's say this is going to be my background. There you go. My background of my tree. So if you have a symbol, you can just put it there. Just do whatever you want with it. Now, if you are using, let's say, cat linking, okay, this is the cat linking. You can only generate elevations. If you want to cut a section, you are out of luck. You see, it's going to be back to elevation. Yeah. So I would say use the mesh. Okay. I'm going to show you one of the projects I've done just using like I think 3D model reference. Okay. What this is that it's actually from Form Z, and what I'm using is that I just basically put it inside Revit. Oh shit! I forgot to upgrade. And what happens is that you can actually generate big file, like it doesn't matter what kind of like file you can actually generate it, and yeah, it's a whole whack of stuff. Now, okay, ignore. What we can do is that if you go to Reference 3D, this is all from Form Z. And then if you want to export this out as kind of like a 2D object to be used for your elevation, all you have to do, oh, actually, let's do something. I want to fade this tower, okay, at the background. Let's say I'm going to fade that. And just go to invisible line. Okay, just assume that, yeah, I want to fade this out, or you want to hide it, doesn't matter. But I would just say faded, make it like 40%. Okay, so that looks like it's faded. Now what you can do is that you can embellish this, and then next thing you want to do is that if you want to export this out as a 2D object, I'm just going to go export cat format, PWG. Okay, let's go next. Yeah, I'm just going to put yeah, sure, and make sure there's no. Okay, it's going to generate that information. So that particular model is actually 29 megs when you export from Form Z, and then when I put it inside Revit, it's about, yeah, it's double the size, but you retain the information. And what you can do with this is that, oh, there you go, there's your elevation, and then when you double click, okay, and then I'm just going to explode again. You notice that it's all a bunch of lines. You can manipulate it. Okay, it's all 2D information, and it's a good, I would say it's a quicker way if you have to flatten it out and just use it just to do whatever you want. Okay, rather than you just say, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw away my 3D. This is a perfect way. Your elevation is pretty much done, right? I just show you that this is probably the quickest way, rather than you deleting your model and then fix your elevation, do whatever. I'd say use this method. Right? You learned something today? Okay, good, good. Now, other stuff you can do with this is that you can actually put in background. Okay, I mean that's the beauty of Revit. In AutoCAD, you can put images, but it's pretty difficult for this. For this, you can say, okay, I want to put in my background and put it, let's say, put a gradient. Right? I'm just gonna put some red. When you hit apply, you notice that you can actually do the sky. And if you want to add like shadows to it as well, okay, if you are doing like shadow studies and all that stuff, this is a good way. You can say, okay, I want to add my shadow, have the shadow, hit apply, and voila, right? So it's a good way. I mean, you don't really have to use Revit just to do modeling. You can still use other software and just use this kind of like 2D people want to say, oh, a consultant wants to say, oh, I need your elevation, then you just export it out, AutoCAD. In AutoCAD, unfortunately, you're stuck with 2D, right? You're stuck with 3D. You cannot project anything. So when you send it to consultants, it's all going to be 3D. Unless you do the solid prof method, right? The solid prof method, when you generate it, it will create the two-dimensional and all that stuff. But Revit has that flexibility, and it gives you a better code. Maybe I should figure out, if you guys don't have a question, I'm just going to go figure out if there is I remember there is a section catalog in here. Oh, I'm seeing something. Is this the one? Oh, I think this is the one. No, this is style and standard. Yeah, that's the problem with Inventor. Man, that's the problem with AutoCAD, is that they keep changing tiles. You don't even know where they're putting it. Nope. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. I could not find a section. If I know maybe I should go to the AutoCAD section. Okay, create a cross-sectional view. Okay. Okay, so go Layout tab, create a view panel, and then section fold. Layout tab. Okay. Oh, I see. There you go. That's what I'm looking for right there. You see there's a section? Maybe I should go to the plan. Let's go back to the 3D model, Solid. Okay, let me go down to plan. And I'm going to create one from model space. Okay, maybe I should turn on the layer first. Sorry, just turn on all the layer. Okay, first thing I want to do is click on this for model space. Yeah, if you haven't played around with it, this is pretty cool. Okay, you can use it inside AutoCAD if you need to be model space. Okay, yeah, entire model is fine. Let's see, view base, sure, layout 1. What it does is that it just generates that information for you. Okay, and in here you can say, okay, I want to do isometric. Okay, and I would say, I'd probably say invisible line. And let's say the current. Oh, actually, let's say I want it to be left. Okay, that's what it is. And say OK. What it does is that you could generate a 2D information. This is your plan, elevation, and this is your bottom. And what it does is that it has a component, it has a section. Oh, I forgot. I should say new layout first. Okay, so let's say I'm going to do it again from model. I'm just going to say select this object. Layout 3. Okay, now what you can do is that from here, I'm just going to say top. This is my plan. Okay. And then I want to create one from elevation, my side elevation. Okay, and I want to probably do a 3D. Yeah, I don't know why they keep doing that. And then when you hit OK, there we go. It's generated. Now, what you want to do is I want to cut a section. See, I'm going to select this object. I want to cut a section here. OK, and say I want to face it the other way, and say I want to put it here, and hit OK. There we go. There's a section. And what you can do is that if you move this, let's say I want to move my come on. Yeah, I want to move this. So I want to move it somewhere there, right? What happens is that this thing automatically updates. Okay? This is a new way of doing it. I don't like it because it's too confusing, right? So what happens is that it takes your model put it in a paper space, and then you just basically generate from there. I prefer to do it more of a model space, where I can control what I want, where I want to cut it, and just generate whatever information, and then that's it. Whereas this one is it puts it into paper space. You don't know what you're getting, but this one, the nicest thing is that you can actually flip to different views. You can say, okay, I want to customize that, and then you can go detail. I mean, yes, but it's also very confusing. It's pretty new. All right. So which one do you prefer? The Revit part? Much easier, right? You can manipulate. AutoCAD is But some people like it. I mean, this is your option. I'm just showing you a couple options you can use your 3D models. All right, that's it for today. If you have any questions, let's see. I'm just going to unmute everybody. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? You guys can talk. No? No question. Okay. Yeah, that's it for today. If you guys have any question or comments or anything, just let me know. All right.
Thank you, Simon.
No problem.